Wood, smoking all my dragons, divine righteous, almighty greats, overachieving, never slacking. And I know, some people are like, stay away from politics, which, I'm not diving deep into it or nothing like that. This caught my attention. I want to know, it's good to know a little bit about, what's going on over here and over here and over here and over here, right? So that no matter what, you're always prepared. Because true failure is failure to prepare. So I like to, get a little bit of everything in there, right? So with that being said, we got Joe Rogan, heated debate, the Donald Trump bloodbath speech. This is by Joe Rogan and Jon Haidt. And I don't, like I said, I keep thinking that D is silent, so hopefully I'm correct. Other than that, it'd be pronounced like Hated. Yeah, that D's got to be silent. With that being said, let's jump into it. Here we go.
I'm sure you're aware of this recent Donald Trump speech where he talked about a bloodbath.
Oh God, yeah.
With the actual
I'm not familiar with that speech at all.
Actual phrase was what. See if you can find that, Jamie, because it's actually important to highlight how not just inaccurate, but it's just deceptive the media was in their depiction of what he said. And that they are taking this quote out of context and trying to say that there's going to be a civil war if he doesn't get elected, which is not what he was talking about at all. See, pull it up, because it's so disturbing that they would, first of all, that they would think that they could get away with it in this day and age with all the scrutiny and all the with social media and all the independent journalists that exist now, which is one of the more interesting things about the demise of corporate media, the demise in trust. Trust in corporate media is at an all-time low, and so this has led to a rise in true independent journalists, the real ones out there, the Matt Taibbi's, the Glenn Greenwalds, the people that are actually just trying to say what is really going on and what are the influences behind these things and why are these things happening. But this one was bizarre. When I saw it, and then
Aren't they always bizarre at this point, though?
saw the actual speech. Let's play the actual speech.
Yeah, I have the actual speech. The headlines were different, but I'll just play this.
Let's play the actual speech.
To China, if you're listening, President Xi, and you
This
and
is
I are
it.
friends, but he understands the way I deal. Those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
You definitely got to watch what you say. And, you got to watch what you say. Because even the guy behind him, hold on.
That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for.
Like how he's yawning, someone could even take that and flip that and edit it and make it look like, look, even this guy was shocked. Like, you got to be careful. Like, the internet and just media, you got to be careful what you say. Especially when you're somebody on the level of Donald Trump. Even though not too many people on that level, but still.
It's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. If this election isn't won, I'm not sure that you'll ever have another election in this country. Does that make sense? I don't think you're going to have another election in this country. If we don't win this election, I don't think you're going to have another election, or certainly not an election that's meaningful. And we better get out, I actually say that the date, remember this, November 5th, I believe it's going to be the most important date in the history of our country. I believe that.
So that's what he said.
Well, that sounds pretty bad. That sounds like
sounds,
the Flight 93 election argument,
what
that if I don't
was,
win, the country's over.
But what he's talking about is this subversion of our economy and the subversion of our democracy, that we will never have an election again.
I mean, let's be honest, though, Joe. Even though, yeah, I agree. Even if he's talking about that, it's just the way you deliver a message. I'm not saying that he's wrong or that I don't, because it'll be people who just comment and they take stuff out of context. What I'm saying is, like, there's a lot of people, even Trumpers, especially younger ones, that's gonna take that and be like, yeah, and push that narrative, even if that's not what he was saying. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that are going to push that narrative. Personally, we all know somebody out there who's not the brightest that's going to be like, yeah, you heard what he said. And I think that hurts him more than anything is the support. A lot of the supporters that aren't too bright that'll take and push that narrative. It isn't just like the media. It's also going to be, it's the same thing with any organization or group or political party in that sense. Like when you have a leader, sometimes it's your own people that take it out of context, or they promote it in a negative. They put it in a negative light, right?
I don't think he's saying that it'll be a bloodbath in terms of a civil war. He's saying the economy is going to be destroyed.
There was no. I was listening for that. I was thinking maybe he meant it as a metaphor.
Speech.
I didn't hear any. I mean, the bloodbath is.
It's an unfortunate term, but what he's not. I don't think he's saying it's a civil war.
It sounded to me like he was. It sounded to me like, if he doesn't.
I think. I don't know. I can't say what Trump meant. Trump's a New Yorker. We can be very, I guess, just strategical with how we do things and our words, and he left enough room for debate on purpose. I feel like he's the type of person, he knew what he was going to say. Yeah, because look, they both got two different perspectives out of that one speech.
When there will be violence.
Right.
You have to really give him a hell of a lot of benefit of the doubt.
He's talking about the economy.
He was talking about no, it was an
he's
aside.
talking about China building plants. He's talking about all these things and saying that if he doesn't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a mess. I don't think he's I think he would elaborate on that if he was saying there'll be violence. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think he's saying destruction of our economy, the destruction of our...
He makes a lot of asides. So he was talking about the economy, that's true. And then he said, if I'm not elected, and then he makes an aside about what would happen to the country if he... So look, we might disagree on this. We surely disagree on our priors.
It's surely the wrong way to say it. Surely. We both agree on that.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate term to use.
For him to, yes, that's right. But
and that's why I was saying, and more so in the beginning or the middle of the video, I was saying, you got to be... it's just about your approach. It's about how you deliver the message.
It doesn't sound to me as though the media took that one out of context.
I just rewatched the longer video in closed captioning. Cut it off. The video we watched cuts it off right after he says bloodbath. And it does continue to sort of say
let's see.
If I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine. All he does is build car manufacturing.
Okay, so he's back on the economy.
Yeah, he was talking about tariffs.
But but the aside was not about the economy. The aside was him making one of these typical asides about how important he is. All right, Joe, I think we're not going to settle this.
Yeah.
I do agree that the media as a progressive left-leaning institution like universities has violated its duty many times to the truth and thereby lost the trust of much of the country. Most of the people who work in these industries, I think, are wonderful and are trying to do a good job. But the net effect, and this is my point about structural stupidity, during our culture war, institutions that have had very little viewpoint diversity have been subject to hijacking by those with a political agenda. So I agree with you about that. Although I disagree with you about what that comment from Donald Trump meant. It sounded to me like it was not taken out of context.
Well, he was talking about the economy, though.
Before,
specifically.
Yeah, I know, but in the aside, he wasn't.
In the aside, he elaborates in the aside about the economy.
No, he just makes this aside about the bloodbath. But that's the least of our problems. Now back to what I was saying about the economy. All right, look, we're not going to settle this one.
It's a terrible term. It's a very unfortunate term. If he said it would be a disaster instead of a bloodbath, that would have been the better term to use.
That would have been a reasonable thing to say.
But he's filled with hyperbole. I mean, he's trying to excite people about the idea. You're right.
Words matter when you're a presidential candidate.
They do. You do. You're right. But no argument there, and I'm in no way saying that was the correct thing to say. But the way they phrased it, the way they just tried to make it seem like that was the only thing that he was talking about.
Okay, I'm just not going to say anything else on this.
I get it. But what you're saying is that these people are good people but that they are ideologically captured. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that most people are reasonable wherever you go. But in the social media age, it's no longer about what most people are like. It's about how much power do the extremists have, because anyone now has the power to hijack, threaten, intimidate. So that's my concern.
I agree with John when it comes to that's the least of our worries. I mean, to me, I'm sorry, but I just feel like I've said this before. Don't be mad at me. I just think it's all comedy at this point, and I feel like the only answer for the people of America is to have your stuff together, because when it's all said and done, when you get too caught up in just this person said this, and no, I think he meant this, and da 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 da, it's like I feel like that becomes a distraction. It does, but I'm sure Donald Trump will clear that up and really state what he meant in an interview. I mean, as we get closer to November, once summer passes, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be just all out chaos when it comes to the presidential campaign. But like I said, when it comes to like a lot of people that support Trump and how they feel like he was rigged and robbed, yeah, those words can be deadly, because I get it, they're exciting people, but we're just gonna have to see how it turns out. So let me go enjoy the rest of my birthday. With that being said, y'all let me know what y'all think in these comments, and original link will be in the description. Everybody enjoy your night. Much love.